All right, everyone. My name's Rob Dixon, and I'm super excited today. This is our first session of a series on digital parenting, digital citizenship, and connecting with teachers during remote learning. Um, a little bit of housekeeping in this. Next slide. To turn on closed captions within the interface, look in the bottom right-hand corner of the live session, and you can select a subtitle or a caption in a different language that's transcribed live. That's a preview option for Teams, and that's the interface that we're using today. That's also the interface that your teachers will be using to connect with you that will go on later on in this session. Also, to ask questions during this event, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a question box, and in there you can ask a question and you can hit send. We'll be moderating some questions privately and publishing some questions for everyone to see the answer to. So there's a live question and answer there. You can ask any question that you need an answer to, and we have moderators here to help with that. Helping present and moderate today are myself. I'm the Chief Information Officer here at Wichita Public Schools. We have Clint and Tana, who will be presenting with me, some amazing superstars, and also moderating with us, Josh, Kristen, and Carrie. Everyone here is a great resource in the district in instructional technology and how to purposefully use technology within the classroom. You know, it's an interesting environment that we live in. I think about my kids. I have 3 daughters, 2 college, and 1 that's sitting next to me right now. Bailey, say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Bailey's a junior in Wichita Public Schools, and whenever we think about how kids are coming into technology, they're really born with an exposure to those different dynamics, both socially, both from a hardware and experience-wise, and as you can see by this graphic that I update every year, our society has changed dramatically in how we connect to each other. And I think also it's also been accelerated in the environment that we're in now, especially during this pandemic. And so a lot of this presentation is to help you in this change that has happened in our society, but also to help you think about what it looks like as we have students and children that are brought in during this time. So next slide. Looking at media usage with kids, it's massive to see, especially during this pandemic, what that looks like. Whenever you look at this graph and you see between tweens and our teenage kids, the usage and the exposure to those devices is pretty dramatic. Bailey, whenever you were younger and they had some different solutions come out with technology on how to limit time, how did that make you feel whenever I, as your dad, came and started limiting the time that you had with that device?
At first, I really disliked it because it was very restrictive compared to what I had before. But over time, I noticed that it really helped me manage my time on my phone. I feel like it would be very useful whenever you're younger, like in middle school, and it can show them like when you should be using your phone and how often you should be using it.
I appreciate you saying that, Bailey, because initially there was, it was hard because when you've been exposed to it over a long period of time and over the course of the time of your day, and then all of a sudden you've been limited to it, there is some difficulty there and some angst that's grown in that. And so I want everyone to be clear that this is obviously something that will be a hard conversation sometimes that you have with your kids. So thinking about consumption and creation on those devices, look at YouTube. Look at the usage of YouTube over the course of time, and between those, YouTube can be great for creation, kids creating videos, creating some great different content. It's also one of consumption. And so whenever you think of trying to balance that act with your kids about how much they consume, how much they're exposed to, and what's appropriate for them. It's a difficult environment to continuously tackle. Next slide. We're partnering with Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media is a nonprofit. The only portions of Common Sense Media that we use is the content. And Common Sense Media is funded by the media and some philanthropic groups. Media specifically fund the parenting piece of, you'll see movie ratings within Common Sense Media of how the content within movies and new movies that come out. You'll see that being funded by the media. And then also what we're going to talk about is digital citizenship and literacy. And so from there, I'm going to pause for any questions. Does anybody have any questions that have arisen? Team?
Hi, Rob. No, we don't have any questions so far coming in.
Awesome. So I'm going to hand it over to Tana at this point.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tana Reuter, and like Rob said, I'm part of the Instructional Support Technology Integration team. And I'm going to talk to you today about digital parenting and thinking about that digital well-being. I do want to preface this with, I'm going to be kind of quick, and this is an overview. The next session that we have planned is solely these 5 components, and we'll really dive deep into it. So this morning's session is kind of an overview about thinking about your digital well-being. It's making sense of having control, having an understanding, having that trust around tech in our lives, truly finding that balance. I do want to have to say there are some, Common Sense Media offers some great tools, but you have to make this work for you and your family. So the areas that these are, it's screen-free times, it's parental controls, it is family rules, it's practicing digital citizenship, and it's watching and playing technology together. So let's just do an overview of these 5 real quickly. When we talk screen-free times, it's meaning take a break from tech. Take a break from that time, especially from the bedroom, from them using it with studying. Now, we don't mean using the tool for educational purposes. It's that watching YouTube while you're studying, listening to music while you're studying, that type of break. And then also, could you do dinner-free times? Establish zones that work for you and your family where there's no tech. The second area is I do want to pause and just say, obviously in this remote learning environment and screen time during the age of the COVID-19, it's not the same before. So please give yourself some grace and think about these 7 components with screen-free time. So the next one are parental controls. The number one thing you can do for parental controls is really have those discussions with your student, have those discussions with your children. What are your expectations? I think Rob and Bailey talked about that very well. He expressed, obviously she was a little reluctant at first, but through the end saw it. So that really is that number one tool, that conversation you can have with your kids. However, some of those devices out there have apps for you. The device itself has some controls. Perhaps your phone company has some apps, and then there are outside apps as well. And again, our next session is really going to dive into these and show you some of those specifics. This is an overview of that digital well-being, trying to create that balance. So what else we need to think about? What are the family rules? And I really see this and establishing screen time. It's hard to differentiate between the two, but you definitely want some family rules out there. What is it okay to do online and when? Meaning, what tech and media is allowed? The number one thing is it age appropriate? And one thing that I love about Common Sense Media is when my son wants a new game, so he's kind of a gamer, he's 12, he goes to the Wichita Public Schools as well. He's a big online gamer. When he has a new game, I tell him, show me what Common Sense Media says about it. I'm not a gamer. I don't have the expertise to do that. And so establishing clear family rules. There's even ways you can make a family media plan to talk about those things, to keep yourself safe, to keep them safe, to talk about privacy, which leads us into the next thing, which is practicing digital citizenship. And we are going to dive into this one a little bit further. Clint's going to talk about that one as well. But they have, I kind of came up with an acronym for it, SKIPS. So you want to be safe, you want to talk about being kind, Being investigative, that really means looking into what's being said, who's saying it, how, and that type of notion. Be private. How well can we protect ourselves and our data? And then be someone speaks up. If you see something wrong, please tell us. Please tell us. And having this conversation, if we go back to those clear family rules, and that number one thing is having those conversations. The last area of notion of trying to create that balance of well-being in the digital world is watch and play together with your kids. What are some things you could play together? My son loves watching YouTube videos about gaming. And I thought that was so strange until I realized I watch a lot of food, how to cook food, and it's kind of that same thing. So he shows me some of those things and I have kind of a notion of what he's doing. So is there media to do? And then this resource out there is what are 5 reasons or texts that you guys could do together. So it's really those notion of finding a balance when you're doing this. So when you ask questions, you want to think of these 3 things. What are they doing in line? Discover and explore that. How much time do they spend doing that? And there are recommendations, and obviously time is different. It's that education time, it's content. It's so time isn't equal. It's kind of how much time are they spending social media and that type of thing versus educational content. So content and time isn't 100% equal across the board. And then the last question you want to ask yourself when you're trying to find that balance is what they are doing age appropriate. Again, I want to say, I know that was pretty quick, those 5 components going over them. We do have a handout at the end of our session that reviews these as well. And those 5 things are our whole next digital presentation. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and ask Josh. Josh, are there any questions or clarifications?
Yeah, we did have one question that came out, and the person was just asking, how are we helping our workers out during this time during the virus? And so we'll go ahead and address that by saying we are providing training for our teachers to help navigate this time, and we are also, of course, providing continual updates through email and other communication channels that the district has.
Thank you, Josh. So at this time, I'm going to hand the reins over to Clint, and he's going to go into digital footprints for you. Clint?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I'm Clint Dayhuff. I'm a tech integration specialist, and I have taught middle school and high school computer classes, computer programming, technology. So this is something I have a lot of experience with. And, you know, I have a sophomore here in Wichita Public Schools, along with a 2nd grader and a kindergartner next year. And so I just think it's so important. Digital footprints is a topic we need to be discussing. And next slide, please, Tana. So what exactly is a digital footprint? A digital footprint is the trail that we leave behind when we're using the internet. And that could be things such as chat logs, pictures that I post, social media posts, blogs, even things that we may not think about, like my web searches, the websites that I visit, the key terms that I'm searching for. And the trail that I leave, you know, this could be something intentional. So something great, such as a resume, or, you know, maybe I'm a photographer and I have some blogs about that, or some pictures I post about that. Could also be very unintentional if I'm leaving, for example, searching websites that I shouldn't be, or things like that. So this is something that I talk with my kids about a lot, and I talked with my students about all the time. A lot, especially in that middle school age range, as kids are really starting to get into social media and things like that. It's just so important to have these conversations, because going in right into this next slide, digital footprints are permanent, or can be permanent. So in the day and age of copy and paste or screenshots, or virtually everyone has a camera with them at all times, whatever I post online, I know that could be there forever, whether I want it to be or not. And so, you know, employers, colleges, things like that, they are absolutely searching, you know, searching the internet when somebody's applying for a job or applying for college or post-secondary training, things like that. So it's very important that we teach kids this at a young age, that, you know, what I do online potentially could be with me forever. Next slide, please. And so looking at this, we came up with a few questions that maybe you could speak with your child about. And so the first one, have you ever posted online in anger? So I see this quite often in the media and social media, where somebody's very passionate about something, or they get angry about something somebody said and just start typing away. And before they really think about that, they post that. And then those thoughts or comments they have are going to be there forever. So definitely something we want to talk with kids about and make sure that they understand. Let's really think before we post online. Next, have you posted pictures online you wish you wouldn't have? So my 18-year-old self would probably post things that where I'm at now probably wouldn't post. So that's just something you really want to have them thinking about, is you post something online, it's going to be there potentially forever. And it could be shared and things like that. Have you searched websites that you shouldn't? So when I go search online for things, that traffic there potentially could stay with me. That can also be searched. And that's something a lot of, especially younger kids, don't necessarily understand. Are you aware that what you put online could be there forever? That's something I talk to my children about all the time. Really think before you go and put anything online. And the last one is, you know, a lot of people think a chat is anonymous sometimes, and it's really not. Chat logs are one of the hardest things to actually get something deleted from. So just a few questions that you can talk with your kids about, you know, while they're navigating this digital age. So some examples, another thing, email, you know, a lot of people think that email is potentially couldn't get out there, like we've talked about a lot. It's so easy just to copy and paste or to forward an email. So thinking about that. Social media is huge. Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all these things, we really need to be helping our students to understand that when they post something, you know, just be very cautious what you post. Pictures, websites, we've kind of talked about all these so far. So next slide, please. So this was a great graphic I found, created by Royan Lee, and this is just something that I like to post in my classroom, but it's just really helping kids to really start thinking about, before you post, think about what you're posting. Could somebody feel disrespected by this? Could somebody potentially misinterpret what you're trying to say, which happens a lot? Who might be able to read this, which to me, that's pretty much anyone if I'm posting it online. Am I posting in anger? Is this showing a bad side of me, or is this post potentially showing a really positive or good side of me? And then am I revealing too much about myself? So this is a poster I think that we can all relate with, and it's just so important to think before we post online. Next slide, please. So this is really my favorite part about this section, because when we think about this, we talk a lot about the negative things that can happen, but to me, it can also be a great thing. I can create a wonderful digital footprint for myself, and that's really our point, and what we want to get across here is, what type of story is your child's digital footprint going to tell about them? And especially knowing that can stay with them forever. So can they create a digital footprint that could really help them? And the answer is yes. There's great websites people can be built, blogs, resumes, all sorts of things. You can show all the cool stuff that you're doing, or things on, through social media and sharing. You can really show great things that you're involved with and doing. But on the opposite side, if I'm posting things I shouldn't, and so it's really just a conversation that we want to help you have with your kids and really help them create this positive digital footprint. And so with that, I would like to go to Carrie, one of our excellent moderators, and see if there's any questions we need to address.
Hi, Clint. Thank you. Actually, there are no questions that have come in right yet, so continue.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to send it back over to Tana.
Thanks, Clint. Some excellent points. I also know not just to have with them, but things that I've posted about my son and tagged him. If he searches his name, sometimes it comes up with stuff I've done. So it's always those questions to keep in mind, not just for them, but for yourself as well. So I'm going to tackle this last section, and it's called Connecting with Teachers, Microsoft Teams. So we have introduced this to students. So it is a way that students can collaborate with each other. It is a workflow solution for our teachers. There are others, but the one thing that it can do for you is it's a way for you to connect, calling with them or video chatting with them. So I'm going to pause for just a second and say, obviously, it's not the only way. How else can you reach out to your teachers? Obviously, you could phone the school to get a message to the teacher. All those school numbers, of course, you can find at USD 259. Also, teachers are instructed to check their emails twice a day during this remote learning experience. So you can email the teacher. If you navigate to your child's building and then go to the staff column, all those emails are there for you. So the way I'm going to show you is with Teams, but just know this isn't the only way. But I'm going to show you the advantage to this perhaps in a way that you can video chat or have those communication with your teachers. I do have to say this way starts with the teacher. I need to send you an invite. So I need that accurate email because you're going to get it in an email. You do not have to have a Microsoft.com account. You simply need an email. It can be any email. When you get the email, it's going to look somewhat like this. Now, this is an example from a personal Gmail, but at some point you're going to see this Join Microsoft Team meeting. That is a way to join via video. So any device that has a camera, you could communicate with your teacher, your child's teacher with video. Also, you can just use your phone and call that teacher. Again, this has to start with your teacher because they have to be sitting in this meeting. The equivalent is they would say, hey, I have an invitation. Can you meet with me at the school? Please come to room 112. And they're sitting in room 112. This is the digital version of that. So it has to start with them and they're going to be on the other line kind of waiting for you. So you would use this number and then this ID number, this 339 number 0522, you might have seen because not only can you reach us this way, but I can reach out to you this way by just calling your phone. It's not part of Teams anymore. It doesn't require a web browser or an app. I'm just dialing your phone. What you might see if that happens is a phone number from Goddard, but it's this 339-0522, and that means somebody from the school system is using this service to call your phone number. But I'm going to show you a little bit more detail on this. So they're going to call, and what you would get is this invite, and I'm going to show this video. It's about 30 seconds to walk you through. Now, this example is if you're on a laptop, any type of laptop and a Chromebook. It's going to go through a browser such as Chrome, Explorer, Edge, Firefox, I believe. So let me play that for you right now. So you're just going to join on the web. It's fine, just any web. Fluffing the hair and making it look good is important. You can also turn that video off like I just did. And you could put what's going to make sense to that teacher. You could put Mandela's mom, that's my child, or Mrs. Reuter. And then I'm going to wait. On the other end, depending on how the teacher sets it up, you could drop right into the call and you would just be in that. If I have a teacher, I kind of set up a lobby. So if I'm meeting with another child's parent, you don't pop in on that phone call. It's kind of that notion when you go to conferences and they have those chairs off to the side and they're waiting. This is the digital version of that. And so you might say, well, I don't have this, but I do have a smart device. And so I'm going to navigate to the smart device example too. Here's the caveat with a smart device. You do have to have the app, not an account, the app. So you're going to go to your Google Play on an Android, or you're going to go to the Apple Store on an iPhone, and you're going to get an app that looks like this. You're just going to search for Microsoft Team. Again, you don't need an account. You can join by a guest, but it has to go through the app on a smart device. So I'm going to play this one as well to show you the difference with an app. Again, in my example, I already have paused and downloaded that app. It will prompt you if you forget that step. So again, I've started by join Microsoft Meeting, and then I've walked through it, and this is on a smart device. This happens to be an example from an iPhone. So I've gone to my email. I'm going to go find that invite. Obviously, if you've thrown it on a calendar, you can go there. Click on that join. I'm going to open my app. And then right there, join as a guest. I don't need to sign in. I can just join as a guest. Put the name you want that teacher to see. And then it's waiting to let me in again. So that's how you can reach using Teams. This doesn't include your child's account. Your children actually would log into Teams because they all have accounts. These examples are really between you and the teacher when they've invited you through an email address to have those meetings. So I'm going to pause and ask Rob if there are any questions.
I am not seeing any additional questions, Tana.
Great, Rob. It is ready to move on to kind of the closing if you have any additional comments or want to talk about that. And then we're also going to throw that survey and that handout in the announcements section for you guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tana. Our next sessions, this is one of many sessions that we'll do. Next session will be on digital well-being. So thinking about that conversation that Bailey and I had initially and the things that Tana explained earlier, screen time and how to limit that, thinking about those parental controls. We'll go into depth of that next week into digital well-being, and that'll be specifically on digital well-being that whole time. And then after that, there will be another session the following week on gaming. We know sports is not happening in our environments right now. And so what do kids do when they're not involved in sports outside? They're on games, and sometimes games are great. And but if you would like to understand how to make gaming a learning activity, Clint and I are going to walk you through making gaming a learning experience and how to ask the questions so that students start making the connections with the dots, because there's incredible amount of strategic skills that are involved in gaming, and it's great to understand in some games how you can help have critical conversations with your kids. So that's all we have. We have a survey that will be published, and thank you for tuning in.